Imagine standing in a line at 7:30 in the morning. The air is thick with the scent of roasted Arabica and the hiss of steam wands. But look closely at what is actually happening. The transaction isn't cash, and increasingly, it isn't even a credit card. It's a scan, a quick flash of a QR code on a smartphone screen. To the average consumer, this is just the peak of convenience, a seamless way to get their caffeine fix without fumbling for a wallet. But to a financial analyst, what just happened is something entirely different. You didn't just buy a coffee, you utilized a secondary currency. Millions of people wake up every day and unconsciously deposit part of their paycheck into an unregulated financial ecosystem that dwarfs the cash reserves of many actual legitimate financial institutions. We look at the Green Mermaid and see a coffee shop, but if you strip away the branding, the espresso machines, and the indie music playlist, you're left with something far more potent. You're looking at a financial titan that has convinced the world to give them interest-free loans, billions of dollars at a time, with zero expectation of getting that cash back. This is the greatest trick ever pulled in the history of retail. While traditional banks have to fight tooth and nail for deposits, offering interest rates and navigating a minefield of federal regulations and capital requirements, Starbucks has bypassed the system entirely. They hold roughly $1.6 to $1.8 billion in stored value on their cards and app at any given moment. That is more cash on hand than hundreds of FDIC-insured banks in the United States have on their balance sheets. But here is the genius part. A bank has to pay you interest to use your money. They have to insure it. They have to answer to regulators if they make risky bets. Starbucks does none of that. You give them your money now for a coffee you might drink 2 weeks from now. In the financial world, this is known as a negative working capital cycle, and it is the holy grail of business. They have your cash to invest, expand, or leverage immediately. And the only interest they ever have to pay you back is a pumpkin spice latte that costs them pennies to produce. To understand how a coffee roaster accidentally became a fintech giant, we have to go back to a vision that had nothing to do with digital wallets. When Howard Schultz first walked the cobblestone streets of Milan in 1983, he wasn't thinking about mobile payments or high-frequency transaction data. He was captivated by the romance of the Italian coffee bar. His vision for Starbucks was built on the concept of the third place, a physical sanctuary between work and home where connection happened over porcelain cups. For decades, the Starbucks business model was strictly analog. It was about real estate, supply chains, and the human interaction between the barista and the customer. The company's growth was driven by aggressively opening physical doors, putting a store on every corner until the brand became ubiquitous. The value proposition was the experience, the smell, and the atmosphere. Financial engineering was secondary to the operational heavy lifting of roasting beans and training staff. In this era, cash was king, and the relationship with the customer ended the moment they walked out the door. However, the world began to shift violently in the late 2000s. The 2008 financial crisis battered the retail sector, and the rise of the smartphone was beginning to rewrite consumer behavior. Starbucks found itself at a crossroads. The third-place concept was struggling to scale efficiently, and wait times were becoming a major friction point. In 2011, long before Apple Pay became a standard, Starbucks launched its mobile app. At the time, it seemed like a simple loyalty play, a digital version of the old buy 10, get 1 free paper punch cards. But under the hood, they were building a closed-loop payment network. By forcing users to preload money onto the app to earn stars, they fundamentally changed the nature of the transaction. They shifted the consumer mindset from paying for a product to loading a balance. It was a subtle psychological pivot, but it laid the foundation for the Starbucks card to become one of the most widely used currencies in the world, eventually accounting for over 40% of their sales in the US and Canada. Let's look at the cold, hard numbers, because this is where the Bank of Starbucks reality becomes undeniable. As of their recent fiscal filings, Starbucks holds approximately $1.7 billion in stored value card liabilities. To put that $1.7 billion into perspective, that is more customer money held in reserve than 85% of all U.S. banks maintain in total assets. A regional bank has to deal with withdrawals. If everyone runs to the bank to take their money out, the bank collapses. Starbucks doesn't have that problem because you cannot withdraw your money. You can only exchange it for coffee. This creates what accountants call float. In the insurance industry, companies like Berkshire Hathaway became giants by investing the float, the premiums people pay before they make a claim. Starbucks has created a retail version of this. They have access to over $1 billion of customer capital at 0% interest, which they can use to open new stores, buy back stock, or invest in digital infrastructure, all while the customer feels rewarded for lending it to them. But the financial brilliance goes deeper than just the float. There is a darker, more lucrative side to this model known as breakage. This is the industry term for money that is loaded onto gift cards or apps but is never spent. Maybe you lost the physical card. Maybe you forgot about the app. Or maybe you have 43 cents left on your balance that you'll never use because it's not enough to buy anything. In the banking world, if you leave money in an account, the bank eventually has to turn it over to the state. In the Starbucks ecosystem, that forgotten money is recognized as pure profit. In 2022 alone, Starbucks recognized over $196 million in breakage revenue. That is nearly $200 million of pure, 100% margin profit generated from coffee that was never brewed and labor that was never utilized. When you combine the investment potential of the float with the hundreds of millions in breakage, you realize that their loyalty program is more profitable than many Fortune 500 companies are in their entirety. This financial architecture has fundamentally altered the company's operational DNA. The mobile app isn't just a wallet, it's a data vacuum. With over 31 million active rewards members in the US alone, Starbucks has a level of insight into consumer habits that rivals Amazon. They know exactly what you drink, what time you drink it, and how price-sensitive you are. This allows them to use Deep Brew, their AI engine, to push personalized offers that manipulate cash flow. If sales are slow on a Tuesday afternoon, the algorithm can trigger a double star day notification to millions of phones, instantly generating a surge of deposits. It is a lever they can pull at will to inject liquidity into the business. While a traditional bank relies on the Federal Reserve to adjust interest rates to control money flow, Starbucks acts as its own central bank, printing its own currency, stars, and adjusting the exchange rate, the redemption value, to manage their balance sheet and drive revenue on demand. Recognizing the power of this financial engine, Starbucks has effectively stopped acting like a coffee chain and started operating like a fintech conglomerate. The turnaround strategy over the last few years has been to aggressively expand the utility of this digital ecosystem. They realized that the third place is no longer just a physical chair in a store. The third place is the app. This is why we are seeing a massive shift toward pickup-only stores and the removal of seating in urban centers. They are streamlining the pipeline to prioritize the digital currency users. By integrating with platforms like PayPal and creating the Starbucks Rewards Visa card, they have bridged the gap between their closed-loop system and the wider financial world. You can now earn stars buying groceries or gas, effectively extending the Starbucks currency into the general economy. They are essentially expanding their monetary supply, incentivizing you to transact in their economy even when you aren't in their store. This strategic pivot protects them from the volatility of the commodity market. Coffee bean prices fluctuate due to weather and geopolitics, but the banking model provides a buffer. The The future of Starbucks lies in this convergence of retail and finance. They are exploring Web3. They have dabbled in NFTs with the Odyssey program, and they are constantly looking for ways to make the star a more liquid asset. The ultimate goal is to make the friction of payment disappear entirely. The turnaround here isn't about better coffee, it's about better banking. They are building a future where the app becomes a lifestyle operating system. If they can get you to keep a balance of $50 or $100 loaded at all times, they effectively become your primary discretionary spending account. They have successfully transitioned from a company that sells a commodity to a company that manages a user base, using caffeine as the hook to capture capital. The story of Starbucks offers a profound lesson for the modern business world. The product is often just a Trojan horse for the platform. Starbucks proved that if you can build enough trust and brand loyalty, you can bypass the traditional gatekeepers of finance. They demonstrated that loyalty is the most valuable currency of all. In a digital economy, the companies that win aren't necessarily the ones with the best product, but the ones that own the transaction. Starbucks didn't set out to build a bank, but by solving for customer convenience, they stumbled upon a financial model that is the envy of Wall Street. As we look at the future, every major brand, from Uber to Apple to Amazon, is racing to replicate this embedded finance model. But Starbucks did it first, and they did it with a latte. The next time you scan your phone to pay for your morning brew, remember, you aren't just a customer buying a drink. You're a depositor in one of the world's most successful unregulated shadow banks. And the return on your investment? Just a burst of energy and a green straw.